you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Good morning and welcome to the August the 6th, 2024 edition of the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and we are delighted that you have joined us for today's programming. Thank you so much. We would like for you to be a part of the program, so here's how you can do this. You can dial us up at this number, 516-453-9921, as many have already started already. But anyway, when you do that and you have a question or a comment, press the number 1 button and just wait until you are recognized. And when you are, you can give the person on the other end your name so that I can give you a proper introduction. You can also Gmail me at the numeral number 7. 7, Mr. Bobby at gmail.com. That's 7 MRBO. Let me get this right. The numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY at gmail.com. Yeah, you can do that. And I will read your Gmail. As a matter of fact, I have a few very important to read today, so we will get to them. And, yeah, you can do that. Oh, by the way, if you are a first-time caller, I did fail to mention this. If you are a first-time caller and you call the number, make sure you tell the person on the other end who answers the call that you're a first-time caller, and you go to what we call a priority status, and you will be heard. Okay. And lastly, you can join the chat room, and that or how you do that is go to blogtalkradio.com, and you want to click on where it says programs. You click on the program menu, and then a list of shows will come up. And when they do, you want the Produce Justice show. You click on that, and you are in the chat room. Now, here's important. Do not ask me a question in the chat room to ask Mr. Fuller. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Gmail me or just be online and wait, or as they say in the air traffic control world, line up and wait until you're called upon, and then you will be heard. Okay. The book that Mr. Fuller will be referencing today is called The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, that you can get at producejustice.com. That is producejustice.com. And while I am on that subject, I have an announcement to make, which I will make now, and also in the second hour. For those who didn't hear this, here it is. This comes from the Produce Justice Management. It says this: we have made significant progress in addressing the delayed order situation. As of yesterday, many of you have already been issued a refund for your book order. You may reorder the book once we reopen the order feature on the website. When we reopen the website ordering feature, that means we have new systems in place to ensure the timely delivery of your order in the future. At that time, we'll announce it on the show, and you can also check the website. Now, if you have not received a refund, that means your book is in the process of being shipped, and you should receive it soon. Once again, we appreciate your patience and assure you that every single person who ordered will receive their order or a refund. Thank you, the Produce Justice Management. Now, I don't know how clear it could be, but there it is. Now, I will repeat that again in the second hour. So if you have not received your order or book, that's the announcement. This is what's coming. It's on the way, or you'll get the refund, one or the other. That comes from the top, from the Produce Justice Management team. So, yeah, that's it. So you have any questions in there, you know what to do. All righty. I think that might be it. Now, we didn't get to this last week, so we're going to do this week. It's a feature that we call, for Mr. Neely Fuller, the thoughts and the expressions on the mind of Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. But before we do that, let me start off by saying this to Mr. Fuller. Good morning, Mr. Fuller, and how are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
All right, still learning. All right, let's go to the feature, Mr. Fuller, the thoughts and expressions on your mind. What is on your mind this morning, Mr. Fuller, that you would like to address?
Well, something that's kind of in the news currently, coming into the sixth area of activity according to the code, politics. Politics basically is just interaction between people. Whatever people are doing, saying good morning to someone is politics. People use the expression all the time, or a lot of people do, and that is, are you in politics? Are you a politician? The answer straight up, always telling the truth, or at least the truth is presented the way you understand it. The answer is that. If somebody asks you, according to the code, what I present, you just tell the truth. Are you in politics? That's the question. All problems are asked or solved through the process of questions and answers. Now, that's a flat statement that may or may not be true, but you can research it. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. I say according to the logic, what I have found, the answer is yes. So, if you're talking about politics, and you ask me, and I try to follow what I call the compensatory logic, which is the compensatory code, am I a politician? Yes. Because I'm talking theoretically, or hopefully, to people right now in the English language. And that's political. Anytime I say anything to anybody, that's politics. Anytime I interact with someone, the clerk at the grocery store, I'm in politics. I'm telling, I'm asking the clerk, do you have tomatoes today? Fresh tomatoes. And we go back and forth, etc. Both me and the person I'm talking to are in politics. So recently in the news, I've been hearing about a black lady and her classifications and all like that. So, and according to the code, that comes under the
Area 6, which is politics, back and forth about that. And they're talking about her racial classifications, if I understand it correctly. And so the lady, from what I understand that they're talking about, says that she's black. So my job, according to the code, is the first thing I do is make sure that I don't say call a person by any title or any name, and that's any person, white, black, male, female, just a person, any person on the planet here in 2024, according to compensatory logic. First of all, I always call people by the names and titles. Whatever name and whatever title they give me to call them by. And that's any person. Person that says that they're white, well, I say that the person told me that they're white. A person tells me that they're black and that their name is whatever they tell me their name is, I am duty bound to call them by the title or the name, and that's all people throughout the entire known universe, by the name and title that they want to be called, even if they change their name and title. Every day they have a new name and new title according to them. And they tell me what it is. I am duty bound. I don't tell the person what your title is. They tell me, or what your name is, or what you want to be known by. And I'll try to get it straight at the time that you tell me. And if your name is Granger on Monday and Chandler on Tuesday, just tell me that. So I call you Mr. or Mrs. or whatever, Granger on Monday and Chandler on Tuesday. Why? Because that's what you told me to call you by. You are entitled to that. According to whom? Neely Fuller? No. According to courtesy logic, according to the compensatory code. And particularly for victims of white supremacy, which I identify myself as such, anything that a black female says about anything, or, title or name, I call her by that name or title, or classification or whatever. If she says that she's a clerk, I say that, well, she said what she said. And well, do you think she's a clerk? I happen to know that she doesn't work as no clerk. She's a waitress that you drop in, a little old hole in the wall. I said, the lady told me to give her the title of clerk in this institution. And so I go by what she told me because that's what she wants to be called. She says, well, that ain't what she got on paper. I don't have anything to do with that, sir or ma'am. And always be courteous to whomever you're talking to, because that's a standard of codification. Basic point I'm making is that we need a code. So if you want to apply that to what's going on in the news right now in the Northwestern Hemisphere and throughout the world, because it's kind of controversial about racial classifications. You are what you say you are. As long as you stick by that you said it. Because the code also requires you to tell the truth. And all I want you to do is just say that you're telling the truth. Okay. I mean, you know, and that you told me that. Okay. And that's good enough right there. And,
okay. Wow.
And another thing, I just want to say this. This is very important. For a black male, you're never to say anything derogatory about a black female. Ever. Under any circumstance. You don't make a single derogatory remark. Why? Because we are not, as black males, according to logic, are nowhere near qualified to say anything ever derogatory about a black female, regardless of what she's doing. Because we, and here's the reason, we fail to do our job where black females are concerned throughout recorded history. We fail. And we fail to protect her from the system of white supremacy. Just on that alone, we're not qualified to say anything derogatory to a black female. She's the most vilified creature in the form of a person in the known universe here in 2024.
Okay.
And so no black males under the history, recorded history, is qualified to make any kind of derogatory remark about or to a black female ever.
Okay. What is that? Okay, boy, since we're considered boys, according to you. Okay.
According to the code and according to the evidence. See, everything I say on this program is supposed to hold up in anybody's court. World Court, United Nations. If I'm going to the court right this minute, which I am in court because according to the code, I am in court right now. I mean, I'm up for judgment. And I'm either doing what I'm supposed to be doing or I'm not. And that's a judgment. Okay? And that's the way that's right out of the box. That's why we need a code. Everything is rigid. I mean super uptight rigid. No guesswork.
No guesswork. Okay. We'll do it right there. Okay, here's the number. 516-453-9921. Jamal, Pennsylvania. You're going to be first up here. Let me see here. Good morning, Jamal. You're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby. Mr. Fuller, you just said black males should not tell anything derogatory towards a black female. So if you have to tell her the truth, what if that truth is derogatory? What do you do?
You come in broken up on my end.
Hey, Jamal, could you repeat that question a little, or either get closer to the phone here so that Mr. Fuller can hear that?
Am I still breaking up?
Yeah, okay. I can hear you, but Mr. Fuller had a problem here. So could you repeat that question, please, sir?
Yes. Being that you say the black male should not tell the female anything derogatory, what if you have to tell her the truth, and the truth is derogatory?
I didn't quite get that. Mr. Bobby, did you hear that?
So he said that basically, since we were required to tell the truth, he said, what if the truth is derogatory? You still tell her?
Oh, you always tell the truth about anything if you're going to tell it, or don't say nothing at all. That's the code. I mean, that's when you're talking to anybody about anything. You either tell the truth or you don't. And if you choose
but
not,
he said that the truth. He said, what if the truth is derogatory? To
the
the
truth
black
is
people?
never. Well, I'll tell that right out of the gate. The truth is never derogatory.
Okay.
See, for anybody or anything, the truth is the truth. Now, if you decide, well, it will sound derogatory to somebody and all like that, then you just tell the truth about that. You will say, well, I'm not going to say that because that might be interpreted by somebody as being derogatory. And I am duty-bound as a victim of white supremacy who failed at his duties. I am duty-bound not to say anything ever about a black female. Ma'am, that's my duty. Now, if you say that it isn't, well, we can discuss that further. But that's right out of the gate. According to the code, I have that duty not to do anything. And that sounds like it borders on being derogatory or outright is derogatory according to logic. And so I would request that I not be forced to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, now I'm just giving an illustration of how
you're right.
The code calls for me to handle it.
Okay. Now, as a black boy, according to logic, do you feel like you're a failure as a black boy that they've classified you as?
Oh, yes. See, for one thing, according to the duties, I'm supposed to be a man.
Right. Yes.
But I fail to be a man by coming under the system of white supremacy. It doesn't make no difference how I got there. But the system of white supremacy does not allow any black male to be a man, no matter where he is on this planet in 2024. That's code, and that's the truth.
So again, do you feel like a
black
failure?
males are boys.
Yes.
Boys are beholden to men. And in order to be a man in 2024, first of all, on planet Earth, according to logic, not according to Neely Fuller.
Yes.
You are not a man if you're subject to the system of white supremacy. Your manhood has been completely taken from you. And boys cannot manage anything except what the white supremacists say is being managed by that boy. Because they determine that, the white supremacists. Now, I either told the truth or I didn't. Every black male is subject to the system of white supremacy, in the system of white supremacy.
Right, in the system of white supremacy. So
and
when
in
you
the
look
system
at yourself,
of white supremacy, the only man is white on the planet Earth.
Okay. Jamal, did that answer your question?
Yes. I'll save another question for next week.
Okay. Thank you, Jamal. Thank you very much. Yes. We look forward to hearing from you from next week. Okay, Blacktop in New York, you're up. Good morning, and what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
How you doing this morning, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby? Can you
Good,
hear me
sir.
well?
I'm still learning.
Okay. So I want to stay on the line. I just want to ask this one question.
Okay.
Without reading your book, what would be the top 5 principles for producing justice that we would learn?
Okay.
By reading your book.
By reading the book. Do we do
Without
what?
Reading your book. Without reading your book.
Without reading the book.
Yes. What would be the top 5 principles on producing justice? For producing justice.
Oh. I never heard of the 5 principles for producing justice.
No, he said, what would be your 5 principles in producing justice? Without reading the book.
Well, there are, everything is 9 areas of activity. So the book is about trying to find a way by trial and error to replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. And that's open-ended. There's no basic 5 principles. It's just everything that's in the book that would apply, that would do the job.
Yes.
It's all about doing the job, getting the job done.
Yes. But he said, what would be your top 5 principles?
Anything that works. It's just one. Constructive results. It's not no 5 principles, anything like that. I can't narrow it down to that. What gets constructive results in every move that you make? Now, if I have to answer that question, I can't put it in the frame of reference of 5 principles. I'll just say one principle. What produces justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated at any time. No person, that's number 1. When you're talking about the word justice, it's just 2 parts. Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated under any circumstance. And number 2, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. And that's wherever you are right now. I mean, when there's confusion of any type, and that's deadly, if you really want to add that as a principle, get rid of confusion. Because once things get confused, like racial classifications and all like that, it's all downhill anyway. I mean, just a whole lot of people screaming and yelling at each other and going back and forth. That means you got confusion. And counter-racist science does not allow for confusion at all. There should be no confusion. Like we've got right now, we're starting down that road. 5 principles. Well, the principle is, whatever you do that produces a constructive result. You're getting ready to, as an example, you're preparing yourself for a drive-by shooting. Typical. Something that people do a lot now. That's the slang expression, drive-by shooting. Okay? But everybody, for the most part, understand what that means. Somebody's getting ready to do that right now. Have a drive-by shooting. Or a carjacking. All right? Another slang expression that's become very official. Okay? So, meaning most people now understand what that means when somebody says it in the world of speaking English. okay, carjacking. Now, the question is that a constructive activity? If the answer is no, then you got your answer. You don't do it. You don't participate in carjacking or drive-by shootings. You just don't do it. According to what? Logic. It's not constructive. You can't guarantee that a person is not going to be mistreated in a drive-by shooting. You can't guarantee that the person that needs help the most is going to get it. Because every move you make while you're on this planet, everything that you say in any area of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, anything that you do in any one or more of those areas of activity at any time is supposed to produce justice, produce a constructive result, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. That's number one, just two parts here. No wiggle room. And number two, guarantee that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help.
Okay. All righty. All right, Blacktop. I hope that gave you an answer to that. There's some people on the chat that had some things to say about that, but I'm going to let that one go. But you said keep you on the line, so you are on the line. With that in mind, let's do this. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we thank you for listening. To get in contact with the show, all you need to do is this number here, 516-453-9921. And if you have a question or comment, just press the number 1 button and line up and wait until you are called upon. And when you are, give your name to the person who you are speaking with so that I can properly give you an introduction. The book that Mr. Fuller is speaking from and out of is the Code Book, commonly called the Code Book. The name is the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, and you can get that book by going to producejustice.com, producejustice.com. I made an announcement earlier starting off this particular hour of the broadcast, and I will make the same announcement in the second hour of the program concerning the book shipments and so forth. So make sure that if you missed it, stay tuned in the second hour because I will make it again because it has been addressed and you'll like it the way that it is. Okay. I think that is it. Let me get a Gmail in here if I can here. Yeah, let me get a Gmail here and see that. Okay. How about this one? Okay. This comes from James from Pittsburgh. Says this. Number 1, does Mr. Fuller not ever get tired of trying to fix black people? And what does he do when he does? Mr. Fuller?
Keep on going.
Okay.
Because I don't get tired. This is my assignment. See, this is what they call democratic. I came to that conclusion. Nobody told me this, that you should be talking about all this racial stuff and all like that. I just looked around the world and I said, well, like I put on the back of the book, it's right there for those who have the book, that you can't solve any problem. Any problem that anybody has. If you're black, whatever problem you got, you're going to be dealing with racism. That's the government of the world. That's the name of the government, the system of white supremacy. There are no other governments. And I got to get to that, too. Sometimes in this program. I'm supposed to get to it in every program until it begins to sink in, because I keep hearing this thing of black people, even on this program. We have that habit of saying the Americans. There's no such thing as an American. There's no such, not an animal, not a place, not a person. Americans don't exist. And I can explain why I said it, and I will testify in anybody's court that that's a concept, like Africa is a concept. That's another one. We're supposed to be talking about history and all like that this month, somebody said. This month, here in August, is supposed to be connected with black people's history in some way, form, or fashion. Mm-hmm. That's what I've heard. And they say, within the context of knowing our African culture, there's no such thing as that. It never existed. Because Africans never existed. See, we go by definition. What's an African? What's an American? And what is an Asian? Those questions can be asked and answered. If you ask me, according to logic and evidence, I'm going by the evidence, nobody's qualified to be an African or an American or an Asian. Mm-hmm. And I can give you the qualifications according to logic.
All righty. Here's the second question. Actually, it's the third question, but anyway, here we go. He says, Mr. Fuller, what do we say logically when a black person tells us that they do not want to have a code with other black people and only care for themselves?
You say, thank you very much for your information. See, that's the United Independent principle of the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. You know, we can give our opinions, and as prisoners of war, if you're black, you're a prisoner of war. And so that's your victim of white supremacy. Prisoner, same thing. Slave, same thing. Slavery didn't end. As long as you have somebody mistreated, the person being mistreated is a slave to the person who is inflicting the mistreatment. So to get this word slavery straight, we can't even get that straight. What's a slave? A slave is a person who is being mistreated. Period. That's simple, straight to the point. Well, a lot of people are being mistreated. Well, a lot of people are slaves, okay? How about them apples? Let's go to court and see if that holds up. Of course, according to the code, we're all in court, and everybody's on trial every minute of the day. How about them apples?
What if I don't like apples? Okay. All right. Let's go to John. John in Houston, get ready. You're on with Mr. Fuller now. There you go, John. Good morning. Okay. John in Houston, you're up.
Houston,
okay.
We have a problem.
All right, there you go, John.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. If I'm to use the logic and rationale that he said, simply stated this morning, every man defined as a black male is a boy and has failed to protect every Aboriginal woman who is defined as black. If that is correct, sir, can I proceed?
That's correct. Because we've failed ourselves to start with.
Yeah, I will address the failure this way, sir, and very much honored elder as you are, and I'm still learning too. Born a Muskogee Creek Indian in the year of the great stock market crash, I hope that you are certainly aware of Viola Ford Fletcher at 110 and Leslie Benningfield Randall at 109. Would you suggest an approach to correct the failure of protecting them as survivors of the worst race massacre, if not in this country, I would suggest in the history of the world? And how will that be addressed if they're constantly referred to as black and not as the American Indian you and they were born as, Mr. Fuller? And I'd like to hold on, Mr. Bobby, if I could have a follow-up.
All right.
If I understand the question, I'm non-white. That's the criteria. And really, to get right to the point, anybody who's discussing race or racism, first of all, should got to get straight who's white and who's not. That's the criteria. That's the world criteria. Are you white? Not whether you would part this and part that and buy this and buy that. No, wait a minute. Hold it. Stop everything. Sir, ma'am, are you classified as white and accepted as white everywhere you go? Yes or no? Boom. Like I said, everything is uptight in codification. Get right to the point, which is something that Neely Fuller does not do very well, as you probably have observed. I have a tendency to ramble real quick, like I'm fixing to right this minute. So you got to watch me and stop me from doing that. You don't ramble. Codification does not allow rambling. Reasoning, yes. Rambling, no. And I do it all the time, right on this program. And Neely Fuller's not anybody but just another prisoner of war. So you can tell him that. Fuller, stop rambling. Get right to the point. My goodness, I mean, this is no beauty contest. I mean, this is no playground. This is business. And Neely Fuller is not supposed to violate the laws of the universe. Well, you're hurting Neely Fuller if you let him do that. Just point it out. Now, he can make his own decision, but certainly if you detect it, point it out. Rambling means causing confusion that he says he's not supposed to be doing, which I'm not.
Okay. All righty.
I got that, Mr. Bobby, but here's the thing. Are you familiar with the case in question that I'm asking Mr. Fuller about this morning?
Slightly, but go ahead.
So, if you are aware, the Supreme Court of the state of Oklahoma first and foremost suggested, and I'm a bit perturbed because we don't need their authority or to advise us that we have a legitimate stake or a complaint. However, when we take it to their courts, then that must be taken into consideration. Because the fact remains, we're being oppressed by these supposed white race soldiers that he's saying. But our defense is not being black victims. Now, I appreciate his perspective, but I'm a bit perturbed that we're not addressing it effectively. That's why I keep saying, until we are actually in our correct state of existence, and that is as the American, not an American, not a concept. We are the actual aboriginal, autochthonous descendants of the original inhabitants of this land. And until we are addressing ourselves that way, until we are behaving that way, we will continue to get black treatment, black experiences, and under the law it says civil liter mortuus, which means civilly dead. So if you get what I'm saying, Mr. Bobby, and it will not go away, because the race soldiers are not getting up and being mass deported. So if the people who support Trump, who support Steve Bannon, and they're suggesting these other people are going to go, these white race soldiers have to be first in line. And thank you for the time, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.
Here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let me ask you a question here, since you brought that up. Now, when the racists are eliminated and it is replaced with justice, what do you think will happen?
Well, how do you suggest they're going to be eliminated if we're not stating we're the...
This is what the book is for. It gives you instructions, or suggestions on how to do that. And you start off by telling the truth. Your point is legitimate, but it has to be eliminated and replaced with justice, and then all this other stuff, all the problems would be solved. Mr. Fuller, chime in here, please.
You say chime in?
Yeah, with that,
yes,
about replacing. Eliminated and replacing.
See, first of all, you set your objective.
Mm-hmm.
The objective is to replace the world government called the system of white supremacy.
Yes.
Now, first of all, you have to say, is that true? Is the system of white supremacy the only government that counts, that's worthy of being called a government on planet Earth in 2024? Is that the only government that's worthy of the title government? In other words, the last word and the first word, right out of the gate. And everybody is in that system. And everybody is classified as white, non-white, or white supremacists. Just 3 classifications, not 22. That's not true. Even though a lot of people keep saying it's true. It's white, non-white, and white supremacists. And if you are a white person, you are eligible or should be suspected of, if you are able to be a white supremacist, being a white person. The question is, are you? Because that's a choice. If you're a white person, you can choose to be a white supremacist or not. If you're a non-white person, you can't choose to be white until the white supremacists say that you're white. If you don't believe it, try it. That's written in the news right now. They're saying that a lady who is in politics that's being known for white or Indian or something like that, hey, everybody in the room should look around and look for a white person. Say, wait a minute. You're talking about classifications. The white supremacists decide who's white and who's not in a system of white supremacy. That proves the power of the existence of white supremacy according to logic and evidence. Where is the evidence? You have to ask a white person first. And then that white person, you can ask the question, are you a white supremacist, sir or ma'am? And if the person says yes, then I can prove it by making all you non-white people do what I tell you to do. That's my evidence that I'm presenting to this court. Can you make me do anything, or can I make you do everything I want done? That's the test. That's right in your face. Now, you black people can run around and argue among yourselves, but you ain't got no argument with me. And every last one of you who's ever tried it has found out that you're a loser. That's why you're in the shape you're in, trying to get across my border that I set. I set all borders. I don't have no borders. Deal with it, Negro. See, that's how they talk to us, and we whimper or cry or start stomping and get mad. But they say, hey, you can stomp and get mad all you want to. You can't make me do nothing after you get through stomping and crying and whatever you want to do.
All right.
Now they have made that stick, unless, and I always have to add this according to the code, unless I am gravely mistaken and that somebody knows something that I don't know, and I'm willing to listen.
All righty, John in Houston, thank you very much. Let's go to the dollar, New York. Dollar bill, thought we had Corey up there, but hey, Corey, call back because your name just disappeared. I hope that's not a trick by the usual suspects, but anyway. All right, Dollar Bill, what is it this morning that you have for us?
Good morning. Woo, I'm a little bit disenfranchised myself this morning, Mr. Fuller, because I'm going to tell you, what they call me, Dollar Bill. And don't no white man tell me what to do, because you know why? I got them dollars.
Huh,
That's why
okay.
they call me Dollar Bill. So good morning, gentlemen. I'm going to get right to it. And I'm going to say that this, you said a lot this morning. I almost had to rethink everything. But I'm just going to say this. Where is it now? Because I wrote it down. You say that your book, Mr. Fuller, is a code that you wrote, code or relevant to stopping the system of racism, white supremacy. You say that we are in a war, a race war, and you're always saying to stand by your work. So my question is, Mr. Fuller, and I got another one, Mr. Bobby, if I have time. Why did you write a part of the code? Why did you write a part of the code in your book that you are afraid to discuss?
Oh, then I'm afraid. Wait a minute. That's a question.
Yes, sir.
Why would I write a part of the code that I am afraid to discuss?
Yes, sir.
What part that I'm afraid to discuss? What? Point it out to me. I don't know anything about this, because if I have it out there for the whole world to see, and it's in the code book, my goodness, why would I be afraid to discuss it? I mean, that's my question. And what part of it? I mean, point out the part that I'm afraid to discuss.
You're afraid to discuss war.
War?
People activity and counter war. Yes.
Well, that doesn't come from a fear. That's a strategy. I have put it in the book. I have put it in the book for a person to believe it and act on it or not. And I'm not afraid to present it like that, because it's presented in the book. That's not fear. I mean, somebody came to the conclusion that I was afraid to discuss it. I'm discussing it I'm putting it in the book that I'm not supposed to discuss anything about that other than what I have put in the book. That's what I say in the book. Now, that's not fear. That's a strategy. because I know what the white supremacists will do. And so I say to the whole world, just like I wrote it, that's the way it is. And I'll discuss it the way I wrote it. And part of the way I wrote it is I don't discuss actual, making comparisons. Say, for example, to keep down confusion, somebody asked me, was that maximum emergency compensatory action? And the book says that I am not supposed to discuss any action that any person takes. In the entire section, I think that's the way I wrote it, of war, counter-war. Like in military strategy, it's just some things you don't say because they will aid and abet what? The enemy. So I say that. I'm not going to help the enemy by saying what the strategy is. And so this is my strategy, the way I see it, because it will work toward doing what? The objective of helping to replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. And I'm testifying, and if that's what you want to call it, revealing, not afraid to discuss it. I'm discussing it now. That's how I have written it in the book. That if somebody asks me if a particular action that somebody took fit the description of maximum emergency compensatory action, and they ask me about it, I am duty bound to say that whatever happened, happened. And I don't have any comment on what happened. I'm duty bound to say that. And I say that in the book. So I'm discussing it right now.
Mm-hmm. All righty. I'll tell you what we're going to do. Dollar Bill, I know you had another question. And what I'm going to do, sir, is I'm going to keep you on the line, but we have to keep it moving. So what I'm going to do is put you down a couple of slots. Keep that question. If you even have to write it down, then I'll come back to you because I do have to close out this first hour and get into the second hour because we have an important announcement to make for those who have just tuned in online, so we got to do that. Anyway, we have come to the conclusion of the first hour, so I hope that everybody had a chance to listen. I do apologize for the mistakes that I made, and I say that every week because I make mistakes every week, but I'm also going to ask your forgiveness, and then I'll try to do better. If you got to go, have a good week. Be codified, be productive. But if you are going to stay, we are so delighted that you have chosen to stay. Don't forget to get the book, and you can get it now at producejustice.com. And I have an important announcement to make in the second hour. So everybody there, if you have to go, have a good one. Stick and stay, don't go away. For those who are hanging on, we'll be back in about 5 seconds. All righty. Welcome back to the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. We thank you for listening to today's program, and if you would like, and we certainly would be delighted if you did this, call in. Here's the number, 516-453-9921. Ooh, it's getting hot up in here. When you do that and you have a question or a comment, and I think I'm going to ask you to kind of limit your questions to one because we have a lot of people on the line and a few Gmails that we have to get to. Would love to do it, but as you can see, when we do start granting 2 questions, then everybody has 2 questions. And you know that Fuller is going to give you lots of examples. You know that. So that means the program is going to be elongated. But the reason why he does that is because he tried to eliminate confusion. Try to eliminate confusion as much as possible to eliminate it. But that's why he does that, so we could be clear. He could be clear on what he's saying. Okay. Anyway, make sure you do that. You can also Gmail me right here if you do not want to exactly speak on the air. And here's my Gmail address, the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, MrBobby @gmail.com. Now, I cannot promise you that I will read it to you. In fact, I don't even make promises. However, at a certain point in time, I will read your Gmail, and we can go on from there. Now, one of the things you can do, you can go to the chat room. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com, get in there, and ask questions on the chat room. You're at blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on programs. You click on the program menu, and then what comes up is a list of shows or programs, and you want the Produce Justice show. You get in that, and then you're able to discuss a few things. And I'm going to tell you right now, the chat room is jammed up. It is jammed up, and that's good. As a matter of fact, I am going to read something from the chat room in a few minutes. But those are the ways that you do that. Books, very important. Go to producejustice.com and get the book of suggestions. You know that book's name is The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. You can get that by going to producejustice.com. Now, I have a very important announcement concerning that. Let me make sure I get that. Here we go. A very important announcement concerning that. Now, this comes from the management. Now, here it is. This is the second time I'm making this announcement, and here it is. Wait a minute. Show coded text. Okay. This is from Produce Justice Management. We have made significant progress in addressing the delayed order situation. As of yesterday, many of you have already been issued a refund for your book order. You may reorder the book once we reopen the order feature on the website. When we reopen the website ordering feature, that means we have new systems in place to ensure the timely delivery of your order in the future. At that time, we'll announce it on the show, and you can also check the website. If you have not received a refund, that means your book is in the process of being shipped to you, and you should receive it soon. Once again, we appreciate your patience and assure you that every single person who ordered will receive their order or refund. Thank you, the Produce Justice Management. Now, I don't know any more that they can say. You asked, it was answered, it's been addressed, they got systems in place to do that. There it is. So that's that. Okay, now let's get back to the show. John, I know I still have you on there. Holding Dollar Bill, you're going to ask a question. Corey, I'm glad you called back. Listen, this comes from the chat room, and this comes from Tesnos. Now, he's speaking, Mr. Fuller, and this is what he said. He said, or Tesnos said this, I'm confused. It's the one thing that we do not want. He says, I'm confused, or Tesno says, I'm confused. I just thought when someone called someone an American or African, they were just referring to where or region you are born, not the quality of a person. Mr. Fuller?
Well, it depends on what you want to call an American or call anyone anything. I mean, a tribal name or whatever. But just give your definition, for one thing. I gave a codified definition, and I will go in, like I say, I'm always in court, always on trial. So right now I'm on trial and I'm in court, a world court. People who are listening to me, all right? And so I'm putting everything to a test. I mean, the acid test, the rigid test, the test is supposed to hold up. And I'm saying, according to logic and definitions, the way it's been presented to people here on planet Earth in 2024, American, African, and Asian are all the same people, but they don't exist because they don't qualify for those titles. Nobody does. These are ideal. They are called concepts, works in progress. And that's true, if we want to stick with the truth. Now,
okay.
If we have people who have other definitions, they're saying, oh, no, those are not the definitions of Americans or Africans or Asians. Where did he get that from? I said, I made up those definitions. Just like words are tools, that's all. But I'm saying, from the logic, if we walk through it, I came to the conclusion based on logic that these have to be the definitions. Otherwise, why would anybody ever make remarks like, I'm a proud American? Or, of course, we use that word pride to attach to a whole lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm a proud African. I'm a proud Asian. You hear that all the time. Well, why are you proud? To be what you said you were.
To be what you said you were. Okay.
Yeah, you said you're an American. Okay, you're an American. Why are you proud of being an American? Whatever that is. First of all, what is an American? What is an African? We get that straight right from the beginning, so we'll have all be on the same page. What is an Asian? What makes an Asian an Asian? What makes an African an African? What makes an American an American? An American. You have terms that, like all American. Well, wait a minute. I'm getting confused right out of the gate. All American? Yeah, a football player. You can be an All-American if you play football. What? Wait a minute. What are we talking about here? See what I mean? I'm just giving this a tip of an iceberg here.
Mm-hmm.
We need to slow down and examine words.
Exactly.
Really. Think about one word and think about it and discuss it over and over again, every degree, from every angle, for 40 days, 40 nights, 40 years, if necessary, to get to what? To get to the truth.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right, you see what you started, Dollar Bill? Anyway, Sesh Hat Test Felt number 7 says this. Well, the maximum emergency compensatory action is described in the book that you can get by going to producejustice.com. Now, Sesh Hashtag Felt 7, well, I'll just say past 7 right now, he says this: Mr. Fuller is a veteran of a foreign war. He knows military science. he also said this, that Mr. Fuller remembers how humble the Japanese people became after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So if anybody could speak on that, and he wrote the book, this is his thoughts, his suggestions, you can take it or leave it. That's completely up to you. Anyway, 516-453-9921. Here he is, the Milwaukee man, Corey. You are on, Mr. Fuller. What is your question this morning?
Greetings, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir.
Actually, I was going to speak about fear, and that came up because Mr. Fuller was accused of being afraid. Fear is an absence of knowledge, as you described in your book, Mr. Fuller. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, and feel free to comment or not, Mr. Fuller, is it seems very logical that if we stick to the categories of white, non-white, or white supremacists, that eliminates a lot of confusion as to all these so-called terms of Aboriginal, American, this and that. White supremacy is a global system, so we need to stop confining it to this space and land on the planet and get to the simple logic. Thank you. Can I remain on the line?
You may. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Fuller, you care to comment on that?
No, no question was there, so...
Okay. All right.
Everybody who hears it should think about it. Like everything that's said on this program. Just think about what is said and look for the truth as best you can find it, and then see if you can use it, because that's what the whole program is for.
Yes, sir.
In some way, directly or indirectly, just what you're hearing, see that you can use any part of it to do what? Accomplish what this program is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
And that is replacing the system of racism with the system of justice worldwide, because racism is a worldwide problem, unless I've been misinformed.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get over what the heck is a Pacific Islander. Anyway, let me move on. Before I get something started. Okay, here he is. Talif, Youngstown, the yo. Man, go ahead, Talif, you're on.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller, everybody listening. I didn't catch most of the show, but I know that today they were celebrating the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. I've actually been there. And Nagasaki, I know you mentioned it, but a lot of people don't even actually know about Nagasaki because even the news media won't cover it. So they're used to hiding a lot of different things. Also, it's funny you guys talk about identity. I created a shirt years ago in big bold letters that says, I'm not black, African American, Christian, Muslim, nigger, Democrat, Republican, minority, lazy, or a thug. And I'm actually wearing it today. And on the back, my uncle put on the back of it, we are true Aboriginal worldwide people. Is basically universal people is what he said. But Mr. Fuller, couple things I want to say. I know we talked about immunity and things like that before. If you want to know how the 11th Amendment came about with this immunity, and I know I've mentioned it before, people, look at Chisholm v. Georgia. That's all I want to tell you. And then, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby, there's been a lot of talk about, I don't know if her name is pronounced Kamala, what so-called race she is. I was always taught a race is a competitive relationship between a group of two or more people. But I noticed one thing, Mr. Fuller, is that the so-called black people, we'll talk about, oh, well, he or she is not really black because he don't think the way we do, or she don't think the way we do, or she's married to a white guy or this or that. But they want to tout Kamala Harris as being a so-called black woman when she said she didn't. But if somebody, what I like to call our Caucasian cousins, say anything about it, they're racist. So, Mr. Fuller, I'm pretty sure I understand, but according to logic, why is it that we can pick and choose who we want to call this person or that person? So-called black people get offended, but they like who they like, and they'll say it, but won't let anybody else say it. Mr. Fuller, what is your thought on that?
We'll let Fuller answer that. Just a second. Hang on. Mr. Fuller?
Well, if I understand the question, according to the code, any person can call themselves by whatever they want to call themselves, and they can request that everybody who hears what they call themselves will call them by what they said. That includes names, personal names, or a title that goes before the name or after the name. Some people will say, well, my name is William Gordon, Esquire. See, and they'll have that Esquire behind it. Well, I don't even know what Esquire means, except I've looked it up, and supposed to mean something special, but I don't know what that special is. But if the person gives me that and say, don't mention William Gordon or Jimmy Brown without putting that Esquire behind it, otherwise I'm not going to answer your letter. So I want the letter to be answered, so I put that Esquire behind it. I don't question why it's there, because the code says I call people by the name and or title. You know, the person might say, my name is Everett Richardson, white man. That's my title. So that all you people who might have some kind of confusion with that, when you see Edward Richardson and you know that, correspond that with everything that I do and how I look and all like that. First of all, I want you to understand I'm a white man. So you put white man behind it. When you said, I'm not going to answer your letter unless that white man is right behind it. Okay? So when I write the person who is asking me or doing business with or whatever, I'll put that behind it. Why? Because that's my duty. My duty according to what? According to the logic and the code, and it works for me. That's why I do it. And it works for everybody towards what? The production of a thing called justice, which is what's supposed to be the reason that I'm doing everything that I'm doing. Everything that Neely Fuller is saying right now about anything, regardless of how he says it or whatnot, or whether it causes confusion, and I certainly want that to be cleared up. But it's for one basic reason, and that is ultimately where people are concerned, to produce a product called justice, which means over and over again guaranteeing under every circumstance that nobody is mistreated, and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help.
Yes, sir.
Underline the word guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
That's the objective. If you haven't produced that objective, it's just a whole lot of motion.
It's a whole lot of motion. Yeah. Okay. Talif, before I get you back in here, I know you said something about some shirts that you have something on the front and something on the back. Check out the history of the African king Mansa Abu Bakari II. He was before, at least 180 years before the lie that we were told about Christopher Columbus discovering here, and the trade routes that were established long before Columbus got here. And he's some relative of the kingdom of Imperial Mali, and he's in the same line and is related to the richest man, supposedly the richest man ever, a black man named Mansa Musa, which I didn't discover until after college. I didn't even know about that. But anyway, you may want to check that out. Matter of fact, anything that is said on this program, check it out and see, research that. You got time, research that stuff and see if it's true or if it's not true. Because a lot of stuff you'll find out that you didn't know what you didn't know until you didn't know that you didn't know. How about that? All right, Talif. Go ahead. I'm sorry, brother.
Yeah, I know about Mansa Musa, and there was also another brother who wrote a book called They Came Before Columbus. But thank you for answering
was it
that.
Ivan Van Sertima?
Yeah, Ivan Van Susteren, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was saying, Mr. Fuller, about that is you answered the question, but you say call somebody what they want to be called, but the argument is that she's flip-flopping. She only want to be black when she wants to be, and I really don't care because I don't follow any of it, but I figured there's probably a lot of people that's hearing that, and I know you explain everything in logic, so it's tough to call, because she first said she was proud to be an Indian, at least of what people are saying. And now they say she even got a southern drawl about it, but people have to understand, too, this is the year of politics, like Malcolm X would say. So you should be willing to expect just about anything that they throw at you, Mr. Fuller, is what I'm thinking, whether color, economics, or whatever. And that's why I think your book is so important. And people need to study also other things so they don't be hoodwinked. And that's all I want to say, Mr. Fuller.
Okay, brother.
Yeah, you understand what I mean, Mr. Bobby. You need to just stop listening to what people are telling you and get down to logic, like Mr. Fuller would say.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. All right, Brother Talif, thanks for the info. Always informative, as usual. And bless yourself, sir. All righty.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, back to Dollar Bill, to the dollars. Dollar, thank you for holding. Had to get those in there. Now, what was that second thought that you had?
Boy, that's a good one today. Hold on. Let me take this. Hold on.
Wait a minute now. We can't hear you now. Come on. Yeah, there we go. So we can hear you.
Got me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I'm sorry. I had those earbuds in my. Okay. So I just wanted to say, great show today, everybody. I just wanted to say, Mr. Fuller. Oh Lord. My other question was, here it is. You talk about true justice, Mr. Fuller, and how we are supposed to seek true justice. But how can true justice really be if you live in an imperfect world? I mean, it can't be. I mean, there's no way that you could guarantee what you're saying to guarantee if you live in an imperfect world. So I was wondering, how can that be done?
By making the world perfect. And how can you do that? By producing justice. That's the first step. Guarantee that no person is mistreated. Not for 5 minutes. Not for 5 minutes. All right? You got to guarantee that. Also, you got to guarantee that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. If it's just two people on the planet, like at one time it may have been just two people on the planet, those people are supposed to interact with each other. There's just two. 2 people on the whole planet now. I'm giving this as a hypothetical example. I don't know. But it may have been at one time just 2 people on the planet, maybe 1 person. And then it got to be 2. I've heard some stories about that, okay? But it's supposed to be a guarantee that neither one of those persons is to be mistreated if it's 2 of them. If it's just 1 of them, well, that's 1 person that's not supposed to be mistreated. All right? The person doesn't mistreat him or herself by eating the incorrect food. That's mistreatment right there. See, I'm trying to make illustrations, to get right down to it. 1 person on the planet. See, well, how can 1 person mistreat 1 person? Oh, by mistreating that 1 person. Duh. So regardless of how many people on the planet, zillions, nobody is supposed to be mistreated, not for 2 seconds, 1 second, a fraction of a second. That's number 1. It's just 2 parts. And number 2, guarantee that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Underline that word, constructive. There are people out there right now who are saying, I need a fix. You say, what kind of fix? Say, I need some heroin. I need it right now. If you want to help me, get me some heroin. Say, yeah, but I'll be helping you do something that's constructive. Is heroin in your veins constructive? Yes or no? Say, well, it makes me feel good. If you're going to help me, that's the only way you can help me. I don't want to talk about nothing else. No racism, and no weather, and climate change, and all. That's a bunch of garbage. I want a fix. Well, sir, ma'am, I'm not going to help you to do that because I've seen no evidence of where heroin, your veins, is constructive. So I'm not going to give you that type of quote-unquote help. Mm-hmm. If you don't mind. And even if you do mind, I can't do it because the code will not allow me to do that. And at the same time go around telling people I believe in justice.
Okay.
Just an illustration. Kind of a sloppy one, like most of the ones I put out. But I'm thinking off, if you can call it thinking, off the top of my head. But the main thing I don't want, even in my explanations, is cause confusion.
It's cause confusion, exactly.
And I'm not good at it, because I am good at causing confusion. I'm not good at not causing confusion.
Well, we're still learning.
Yes, a whole lot of people can give better illustrations of what I'm trying to do than the way that I go about doing it.
Yes, sir.
I have seen that myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've witnessed that. People, I'm supposed to be telling people what I mean when I say it according to logic. And there are other people, when they hear me say that, they will give an illustration that's 40 times or 1,000 times better than the one I gave, because I'm just not good at it. Explaining what I'm trying to explain. That's one of my flaws.
Okay.
Right.
Well, let me explain this right now. We're going to go to break. You're listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and we do thank you for listening in. We had about one half of an hour to go in today's show, and we would love for you to be a participant in this show, and you can do so if you would like by calling this number, 516-453-9921. And you can listen to the show or be a participant by pressing the number 1 button and wait until your call. Line up and wait, as they say in the airport language, before you take off. Just line up and wait, and somebody will contact you and give them your name so that I could give you an introduction when I do call on you. If you are a first-time caller, be sure to tell that person that you're a first-time caller, and we have a priority status seat waiting on you so that you will be heard. And if you missed the announcement, we said it twice, but we'll say it again. If you ordered a book and you didn't get it, either you are going to get the book or a refund, and then if you did get a refund and you want to do it again, they have a new system that is in place so that we can conquer the delays that have been in getting the product that you want. And for further information, you could go to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com, the management team, and I have to believe that Fuller was a part of it in suggesting some things to do, because you have to realize, people, that this is his legacy, and he doesn't want that to be messed up by problems that can be addressed and solved. So management came on and gave me what they have done and what they have in place so that you can get your order. So just remember that. And if you don't, then just recall or remember that this was said in the first hour and the second hour of today's program, if you want to play it back and see what's going on. But we want to eliminate confusion as much as possible. Okay, let's get back to the program here. This is a Gmail. Let's see, this is from Ray. He says this: Mr. Fuller, if what the white supremacists considered evil and what they have made the victims of white supremacy view as evil, as was the only necessity in destroying the system of white supremacy, would that evil be considered constructive?
Evil cannot be constructive at all. Evil means you're doing something that shouldn't be done. And what shouldn't be done is anything that is not constructive. Everything that people do, every breath that you take, you should be looking. It's 2 words to keep in mind, and I keep saying it on this program: constructive results. Every move that you take, every breath that you take, every place you go. If you say you're going to take a trip, the question is, you're going to take a trip, what's going to be the constructive result? If a person just wants to get to the point real fast, because that's supposed to be the point, the only point, then a person might say, well, to relax. Well, what's going to be the constructive result of you relaxing after having taken your trip? And wait for an answer. And it's an answer to every question. There's no such thing as a question that doesn't have an answer. That doesn't exist. Because the question could not exist if it didn't have an answer. That's the way the universe is set up. Mm-hmm. Wherever the source of the question is, the theory is, according to logic, the answer starts gravitating toward the source of the question. Now, why would I say that? Because there's evidence of it. Scientists ask a lot of questions.
Yes.
That have not been answered. But the scientist just keeps at it. keeps, just keep on keeping on, as old folks say. All right? Just keep on. That question, the answer to that question comes to that scientist and certainly to an inventor. I've seen television programs and whatnot where a person is trying to come up with a new type of tire on a car, like somebody did. They say, well, we got what they call an inner tube. I wonder, is it possible to make a tire for a car that doesn't have an inner tube, or a bicycle? Because when I was very, very young, there were bicycles that had to have something called an inner tube. It had another, you might say, wheel inside of a wheel. But somebody said, you know what? We might can save money on that second wheel and a whole lot of it with the bicycles that we put out by eliminating the need for what they call an inner tube. Because we keep having these flats and whatnot and all like that, and this inner tube has got to be made out of weak material. So can that be done? That's a question. So somebody kept saying, well, I'm going to try. And they kept trying. And there you go. No inner tube. And look at a corporation that puts out nothing but bikes and thousands of them. They say, boy, now are we saving money big time. Because now we don't have to have those inner tubes. We can eliminate that. That was an extra expense, big time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you had to have patches and all like that. We're eliminating all that patching. So that's another expense, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see here. All right. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Another Gmail here. I'm not going to mention the person's name, but it says this. Mr. Fuller, I want to know if the white supremacist purposely keeps the white population at the most 15% of the planet. If they want to, would they be able to make the world 90% white?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But the white supremacists have been able to do everything that they set out to do. They say this, they want to conquer people. That's one thing. Maybe not everything they set out to do, but they say for one thing, we're going to conquer all of the non-white people, the people that we say are non-white. We're going to conquer them, even with their thousands of years of what they call civilization, and that's questionable. But we're going to conquer all of them, and I'll have them doing what I want done.
Okay.
And they won't know what to do about it. And we'll call it the system of white supremacy. Mm-hmm. Now, that's one thing they did accomplish, according to the evidence.
Yes, according to the evidence. Important.
So,
okay. Go ahead.
To answer that question, it depends on what they set out to do. Okay. And either they do it or they don't.
Alrighty. It continues, I guess, with the second question. He said, also, I want to know if black criminals are the equivalent of the KKK, because I had an experience of another black man trying to mug me for looking at him the wrong way. In my opinion, Mr. Fuller, most violent black criminals are chocolate KKK members. Comment?
No. They're victims of white supremacy. the system of white supremacy set that up.
Mm-hmm.
That black person wouldn't be robbing you. He robs you for a reason. And the white supremacist set up the reason he's robbing you. Or she, or whomever it might be. Because they are in a supreme position to make that.
Sir.
They make robbers and thieves. They know who's going to jail. They build a jail ahead of time.
Oh, yeah.
And they know who's going to be there.
Put you in it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you see these empty cells and whatnot, and they painting them all up and whatnot, and putting in new bars and all that, the white supremacists know the world that they're in. And they know exactly, almost right down to the individual, how many of certain individuals are going to be in those jails. They built those jails before the person was even born.
They sure did.
You're on the way. You ain't born yet. But I know where you're going to be. 20 years from now after you're born, I know where you're going to be, boy. You know, and you ain't even showed up yet.
As I agree with that, Mr. Fuller, because as of proof, when I was a student at the Ohio State University, one of the subjects I had was geography, and we did a little survey of black areas, so to speak, where black populations were and black people were beginning to explode. And I noticed that these so-called housing apartments for blacks, I looked at them in different cities, by the way, not just here, but in different cities, Cleveland, Cincinnati, and then I looked at other so-called urban cities across the United States, and I noticed that that most black people know this term called projects, or they call them the jacks, and I noticed that they looked basically the same with freeways around them, and the houses really reminded me of cubicles, which also made me think that we were prepared for incarceration. And as it turned out, when private companies took over what they used to be called state penitentiaries and put them in different little towns that were begging for streams of revenue, they became private prisons for profit. And all the stuff that goes on in there is ridiculous. Your comment, please, sir?
Well, black people under the system of white supremacy are born in jail.
Mm-hmm.
The code calls it, what we call jails, greater confinement.
Yes.
In capital letters. Right. It's just greater confinement. You're born in a box. White people decide where you are going to be.
Sure do.
All right. So wherever you're going to be, they'll say, well, you know, if you're non-white, you said, you told me, Chief, that you are what? Well, I'm Choctaw Indian. Well, with your Choctaw self, I mean, you are where? Well, I'm in Georgia. What you call Georgia? Really, I'm on my land, but I'm home. And you came here and you called it some kind of thing called a state called Georgia. And say, well, Chief, I tell you what, I'm a white supremacist, and you, with your Indian whatever, and you ain't even that. You said that you're a Choctaw, but I say you're Indian because you look like them peoples that's over there in India. So I call you what I want to, all right? And now I got you calling yourself an Indian. Okay, so you get your Choctaw, Indian, whatever you are, which you are subject to me now, I'm going to put you in a place called Oklahoma. And I'm going to decide that you are going to be a part of what they call what? 5 civilized tribes.
Yeah.
How about them apples?
Make
they
you
say,
walk
well,
there, too.
What do you mean by civilized? I mean, I don't call myself that. I call you what I want to, Chief. Now, you be chief over them other people that's walking around here talking about this, that, and the other, or anybody that looks like you. But I'm chief when I come around, and don't you forget it. And if you don't believe it, I'll prove it to you in about 2 minutes.
Yeah,
I got a Winchester rifle here, and you got a bow and arrow. All right, see how them apples match up. Chief.
And made you walk there on what they call the Trail of Tears.
Yeah, you're going to cry all the way that you're walking.
All the way.
And I am going to be sitting back in a big city with a warm bath and whatnot while you are doing this walking and crying. All right? And when you get where you're going to be doing some more walking and crying. And not only that, after you get about halfway there, before you get there, I'm going to kill all the buffalo. You ain't got nothing to eat when you get there. with my Winchester 73.
Yep. Yeah, and I understand that. You can correct me if I'm wrong because you were a resident of Oklahoma. They put them in that land.
Born there.
Yeah, I'm born there. Evidently, the land was. They considered the white supremacists considered the land no good. So when the people that were on the Trail of Tears got there, they eventually discovered that there was oil on the land.
There was oil on the land, and here they come again.
Here they come. Yep.
Right. And they say you got to move. Well, I left Georgia, and you say this is my home, my new home, and you know, and you're making that difficult for me to do anything here and whatnot. Well, you're going to have to move again because I want what's under that land.
Yes,
and not only that, I want what's on top of it, too. And one thing I don't want on top of it is you, Chief, and all your little children.
Yeah, children.
And some of them are going to be mine. So that over a period of years, they look like me. You don't even look like your original self.
Yes.
And they ain't going to know who they are. Because they go into my school. I got a bunch of schools set up. I know what to teach you people. You don't even, you know, you're going to be trying to unravel who you are.
Already,
the white supremacists.
Yeah,
you know.
Something else.
I know them very well. That's one thing I do know.
Okay.
But not well enough to know how they operate. That's why they're still in business. On this program, I'm trying to figure it all out, even after all these years.
After all these years. Another Gmail, this comes from Ray, says this, Mr. Fuller, is evil only what the white supremacists consider it to be?
No, evil is evil. You know, evil means you're doing something that shouldn't be done. Now, whomever started that got the ball rolling right there. Some people said it was a snake.
Okay. Okay.
You can take that for what it's worth. A snake did some talking. And somebody believed what the snake said. So they said that was the beginning of evil. That's what I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it may have begun somewhere else under other circumstances, and that's why you have what? Like you have in the Middle East right now, something called religious conflict. We had a person named even King Richard that went on a crusade on account of what? People arguing about what is good and what is evil. You had some events that have happened where somebody who called themselves Catholic didn't like what somebody who later called themselves Protestant, and so they got to disagreeing on what evil is or how to approach it. So they start fighting.
Yep.
So you got that going on right now in 2024.
And it's still going on, yes.
Yes.
What you just said, Mr. Fuller, also can be verified. If people want to know this, they can understand the council at Nicaea under Constantinople, and it goes into detail what he did, just exactly what Mr. Fuller said, and how they went all around the world doing that stuff, and it's still going on. Yeah, that's the council at Nicaea. Check that out if you want to know, if you want to research that. Anyway, here's another Gmail. Mr. Fuller says this. Could you please ask Mr. Fuller this? He has said that for something to be codified, it has to work each and every time. And if it does not work even once, then it is no longer code. Well, Sonia Massey killed recently by a race soldier and several other black people throughout history who did not fight, fuss, and or flee were still executed. Would Mr. Fuller still suggest this approach as code?
What approach?
Well,
I don't understand that question.
Well, the approach of on the code, don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee, and he gave the example of Miss Massey, who didn't do none of that, and then there were several other black people that have been killed when they had their hands behind their back, that, didn't fuss, didn't fight, didn't flee, and they were basically executed right there. And
that's why you got to get rid of the entire system of white supremacy. Talking about just going to court and and defund the police department would not. I mean, the white supremacists say, I do what I want to do. I got all kinds of ways of doing it. I deputize people right on the spot. What are you going to do about it? Have another demonstration? Then I'm going to deputize some more people. In fact, we're going to burn down your neighborhood. See how you like that. Like we did in Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you people don't learn nothing. You got to get rid of my system, or you're going to keep getting what you've been gotten. Now, take it or leave it, Negro. Get out of my office.
So
and don't slam the door on the way out.
So in answer to his question, when he said throughout history, the black people who didn't fuss, fight, or flee, he says, would Mr. Fuller still suggest this approach as code?
Yes. Why? Because it doesn't work. That's why. Code is supposed to work for you, never against you. I start fussing and fighting and fleeing. Boy, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yes,
Man.
but they were killed when they didn't do none of it. They didn't.
Yes, because we don't realize we are prisoners of war, and that's what you do with prisoners of war. See, black people got to understand we're in a war, and we are in captivity.
Mm-hmm.
We're not, well, they're going to put me in jail. Malcolm said it. We keep repeating these things, and it keeps running right past black people, like black people keep saying there's a place called America, or people called Americans, or Africans, or Asians, and that's not true. These people don't even exist, because Africans, Americans, and Asians are people who practice justice, and justice cannot exist in a system of white supremacy.
Okay.
That's the logic. That's impossible.
That's impossible. Okay, here's another question from the Gmail. It says, this has come from Gary. He says this, Mr. Fuller, what do you think of President Biden quitting the election so late, and do you think that Kamala Harris will support reparations?
I don't know. I have to ask Ms. Harris. You want to know what somebody thinks or intends to do, ask to somebody. That's the code. That's the answer. According to the code, I'd have to ask her.
Even though he asked you, what do you think, and you say, ask her what she thinks, huh?
Well, I think that I should ask her. That's what the code calls for me to do. If somebody says that they want my opinion about what somebody else is going to do, I give my opinion. That is my opinion. According to the code, that's the best way. So that I don't do what? Cause more confusion, for one thing. If I start doing, going around saying that, implying that she's going to do this and she's going to do that, when she's available, she goes around making speeches, and I guess it goes on television. She's being interviewed. So look at the interviews.
Well, she did say, if you got something to say it to my face.
Yeah, she said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to ask me a question, show up to ask me a question. Don't ask me a question, or say you want to ask me a question, and then you don't show up, where I can ask it or answer it to your face to face.
Face to face.
If we agree on that, but if we don't agree on that, like from what I understand now, me, Neely Fuller, I understand that Mr. Trump has said he don't want to talk to her no more, something like that, if I got it correct. If I'm not causing more confusion. Did he say that?
Understanding. That's my understanding.
He said, I don't want to have a second talk.
He wanted
he said what he said.
Well, he said what he said. Well,
so ain't no point. Ain't no point if she shows up now and he doesn't. Well, then she has to ask us. Ask herself, I guess. Well, did I believe him when he said that he wouldn't show?
I think he
because he said I'm not showing.
Yeah, well, he wanted to change the venue to something that he liked rather than what was already agreed upon. A person could take that for whatever it's worth, but he wanted to change the venue, and she said that something to the effect that on September the 10th, whenever that is, that she will be at the place that originally was scheduled. Now, if that's for sure.
In other words, she didn't agree to be at that place.
Yeah, for his second, for whatever he wanted to change the venue to. No, she ain't agreed to that. No, no, not at all. Like she said, hey, if you got something to say it to my face. But he didn't want to do it,
okay, so that was an agreement between the two people.
Yeah.
But me, as an observer, all I can do is just observe that.
Okay.
And say, well it is what it is. Look for the truth.
Look for the truth.
Did she say that? Did he say that?
Yeah.
Who says what?
The truth is this. Our time has expired. Sorry to cut you off, but our time has expired. So we've got to cut it off. But thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, callers. Thank you, everybody. Again, every week I say it, but it's true. I made a lot of mistakes. But if you can find it in your heart to forgive me because I'm still learning. But thank you for calling. Thank you for all your questions and answers. Mr. Fuller, the last seconds go to you.
Well, I made a lot of mistakes on this program because I think I didn't answer questions in the best possible way that the questions should have been answered. So that's a lesson there. I'm always Still learning.
Still learning. All right. See you next week, everybody. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Hey, Hotels.com here. Tired of the everyday? We know a hotel that's ready to unwind this weekend. Book hotels with spas in the Hotels.com app. Find your perfect somewhere.